Assalamu alaikum ji. Kids, today we are going to continue with our discussion about strategy. Last time, after discussing SWOT analysis, that would be strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, we moved on towards understanding the pestle analysis. That would be the political, economic, social, technological, legal and environmental forces that surround an industry and ultimately a business. So just a quick review. In political dimensions, we focused on the type of government or type of the government and the stability that is associated, freedom of press, rule of law, level of bureaucracy and corruption. And we also discussed that the higher the level of bureaucracy, higher the hierarchical level, particularly in developing countries, and it's associated usually with high level of corruption, the regulation and deregulation trends that are being followed in the country, the legislation that relates to the social and employment laws, tax policy, trade and tariff controls, environmental protect and consumer protection legislation, likely changes in political environment. The higher the likelihood of changes in the political scenario, the more unstable the country would be, particularly if the changes are unanticipated or abrupt. In the economic end, we talked about the stage of business cycle, the economic growth, inflation and interest rate. Anyone, current reflection on economic growth, interest rate and inflation. क्या figures चल रही हैं? Inflation is 9.4, right? Highest for the past 5 years. It was around 4 or 5% when this government took over. Economic growth, 2 दिन पहले we had a report by World Bank and later by Asian Development Bank, which have actually reduced the economic growth rate of Pakistan to around 3% or 2.5% for the coming 2 years before they anticipate the revival of the economy. Unemployment rates and the labor supply. Now we actually again tapped into this concept and we talked about the quality of labor that is available in the country or the region where you wish to operate your businesses. Then the costs associated with labor, level of disposable income, that would be the residual income left with each household that they can spend upon apart from the necessities, and the income distribution. The more even the income distribution, the more propensity or the more strength of financial strength would be associated with the middle class of that country. Even if the GDP is high and the income distribution is not fair, so the cash or the wealth would be concentrated among very few members, while the majority of the population may not be that economically sound, and that would definitely adversely affect the economic prospects of the business. Impact of the globalization, the more countries open to your World Trade Organization rules, the highly likelihood is that the international competitors are going to come and give you good competition. The likely impact of technological and other changes on the economy. Pakistan is under transformation in this context. We are seeing a barrage of e-commerce businesses being unleashed for the past 5-6 years, ever since the 3G, 4G has become popular and easily accessible, and now even households and the individuals who are not coming to the offices, they can easily do a purchase while even staying home. Then the likely changes in the economic environment. Social aspects would encompass the cultural aspects, how conscious the population is about health, what's the population growth rate associated with that market, and the age distribution. The culture that is prevailing in the organizations, attitude to work, management style, staff attitude, the education level of the population, the occupations, the popular one, the earning capacity and living standards. How would living standard correlate? If the living standard is lower, the people are more likely to come for jobs, even if the jobs are somehow compromising, even if they are not up to the mark, because in order to sustain or improve their living standard, they have to do something. Ethical issues or ethical understanding or perspectives of that particular area or nation, how diverse your work. Sorry? Ethical issues are prevailing everywhere, but it's the cultural aspect, the social aspect that actually differentiates a nation from the other. I mean, for instance, talk about plastic bags, for instance. Now, in particular developed countries, you would be considered as someone who is being very negligent if you are throwing the bags away. Or let's say, recently there have been incidents where the whales have been found dead because of consumption of lots and lots of plastic bags. Now, this would ring a serious alarm in developed countries with regards to ethics. But had it happened in Pakistan, how many of us would usually bother? So the social aspect is clearly related to the ethical context in which the businesses are, the way the businesses see ethics. Immigration and immigration statuses and the trends, ethnic or religious factors. So some countries will have strong religious factors that could impact the business, while other countries may not have that much of a problem with that. Media views, law changes affecting social factors, trends, advertisement, publicity, demographics. And then the technological bit, where we talked about research funding, legislation, intellectual property, the transportation means, energy usage, how the waste is being removed and how much of it is being recycled back. Legislation, current one, future one, how related your country is with the international legislation, how strong the regulatory bodies and their processes are, how transparent they are, how about the environment regulations that are governing the businesses, and then industry-specific regulation and competitive regulations. And last but not the least would be the environmental. That would mean that how people perceive and react to environmental issues that can affect the business. The next step is identification of key success factors. And these would be the controllable variables that determine the relative success of market participants. Let me ask you a question. Which factors do you consider as important for running a successful restaurant?
So food quality.
Food quality.
Your staff.
Staff in what context? Service. Okay. What else? Ambience.
Prices.
Prices. Management. Management and staff correlated. How about, let me be more specific now. How about those factors that could help us run a fast food restaurant successfully? If it was a fast food restaurant, what factors would you consider?
So location.
Location, good. Speed. Taste. The standardization of the product. Every time whenever you are serving, it needs to be the same product.
Sir, can
right?
you say that you cannot eat beef in India, so probably they will go for vegetable burger?
Come again?
Sir, जो beef है, ठीक है, जो अगर suppose McDonald's selling a beef burger, वो India में नहीं serve कर सकते because they have issue.
That's the cultural aspect that we were talking about. Pastel analysis. So these are the kinds of issues that you need to take care, and pastel helps you do that. Now you have come up with ambience, location, speed, what else for fast food restaurants? Standardization of product. How about if we talk low cost? Could be. How about if we were talking about running a fine dining restaurant successfully? Would it be cater it by the same factors that were dealt with for fast restaurants, what it would be?
Sir, you also need to send the desi food. So
Okay, menu altogether it would be different, no doubt. What else?
Interior?
Ambience, service quality, the cleanliness and the way your service staff interacts, right? Furniture. The furniture for a fast food restaurant would be altogether from a fine dining restaurant. It would be much more comfortable. Even the ambience would be much more cozy. Product offerings could be wider as compared to the fast food restaurant. Fast food restaurants tend to come up with a smaller menu that they can produce on high speed as compared to the fine dining restaurant, for which even you as a customer are ready to wait for your food for like half an hour, 15 minutes, right? So in order to participate in a particular industry, an organization first needs to understand that what are the key success factors that would determine the relative success of that firm in that particular industry. If you are not good at the key success factors, there's a probability that you might fail because you will not be achieving the minimum standards of that industry. And these factors will be the key to unlock the secrets of competing successfully in that particular segment. Now let's take examples that what are the technology. The firms that are dealing in technology, they have to have expertise in research. When this Prime Minister laptop scheme was introduced, there was a debate that because we'll be needing lots and lots of laptops, so the government should try establishing a facility where these laptops can be assembled together rather than us importing them from some other country. Sounds like a good idea? Actually, it is not. Yes, you spend a lot on establishing that facility, but if you do not have access to the latest research or latest updates in the products, your production will be out of date very soon. I mean, you can well imagine that how quickly the laptops are improving. So, in order to operate in technological industry, it's not just the manufacturing process, it's also about the access to the technology. If you are poor at R&D or if you do not have the right collaborations, you will be out of business very soon. Manufacturing related, ability to achieve economy of scale. Examples? McDonald's, fast food restaurants, they've got the facilities, and using the same facility, the more they utilize their capacity, the average cost would fall down, right? Then you have got quality control. Coming to the garments, Marks and Spencer's, I'm yet to see a good competitor when it comes to the quality of the product, the cloth, the stitching, and the finish, right? I told you earlier, didn't I, about the Marks and Spencer's grocery stores? Did I? Usually we know Marks and Spencer's for clothing, but they realized that their strategic overview showed them that in the long run, the profit margins in the clothing industries are going to get slimmer and slimmer day by day. On the other hand, the grocery business was showing them that the profitability probability is higher, or it is even growing. So what Marks and Spencer's has done is they have started their grocery stores right adjacent to their clothing outlets. And as is the case with their quality of clothing, the grocery that they do, it's again outstanding.
So even the Styler, they used to sell shoes, but now they're selling clothes, Styler brand. So
Yeah, but again, that would be collaborating with the quality of the products that they're already selling. Usually what happens is you are known as in a particular segment for being high quality or average quality or a business with somehow differentiating products. So if you even introduce or expand your product offerings, you tend to go for the same quality of offerings, even if you are adding clothing to the shoes or shoes to the clothing. You would not find a firm who is offering very high quality shoes but average quality of clothing. Right? So usually whatever quality you're offering, you tend to go for offering the same quality of all the products that you are dealing in. High utilization of fixed assets. Let's talk about this building, or all the buildings that ComStats possesses. So in education industries, the buildings involve a lot of investment. Compare the utility of these buildings that we are getting and compare it with the schools that only operate from 8 to 2 or 8 to 1. And we are utilizing this building from 8:30 to 9 o'clock at night, using the same assets and serving a lot more customers, that being you. Then, high labor productivity. Capital intensive businesses would usually yield higher labor productivity, and it even varies from country to country. In Japan, they are dealing with this issue of their average worker being workaholic. On average, they're spending more than 60 hours. They tend to socialize, the employees, they tend to socialize with their colleagues at business or at their workplace rather than the friends and family outside. That's their culture, right? And compare it with the labor or the working practices or the efficiency that we have in Pakistan. I don't think that needs a lot of explanation, does it?
Sir, but वो labor productivity reduce नहीं होगी अगर उतनी workaholic है?
Yeah, it will get reduced after reaching an optimum level. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना कि if you are working very hard, तो it is going to decline up front. Yes, beyond a point, when you are extremely tired or worn out, yes, it would decline, but you'll first achieve an optimum level, won't you?
Sir, can you explain the first point, ability to achieve economic scale?
Economies of scale, saver foods versus a smaller organization that is trying to sell pulao. Now compare the size of operation of saver food where they are serving literally thousands of individuals every single day. Now that they are getting the economies of scale. Or compare it with Harim Ghar, for instance. Now they are not cooking on the spot or on their point of sale. They tend to cook in very large quantities in a certain place, and then they distribute that production to their outlets. Right? So that they are actually reducing their costs. And now compare it with someone who is actually cooking and doing all the product on the same site. So the cost structure will be altogether different for these two businesses. Although the other business may be able to provide a better taste or freshness. Uska quality ek factor hai that they can rely upon. Then you have got distribution related key success factors, and it would or could include strong network of wholesale distributors and dealers. Here, what is the major barrier that a new car manufacturing unit would face in Pakistan?
So customers को attract करना है, distribution.
Boys? Here, one of the major reasons is that you struggle with availability of spare parts. Another reason is you struggle with availability of the trained mechanics who can handle those cars. right? So if a company wants to become successful in Pakistan, apart from its brand, apart from its quality of the product, it needs to have a strong network of distributors and dealers. FAW has played very smartly. You know what they've done? Firstly, they targeted the truck industry, and they first established their dealer network throughout Pakistan. And once they were established there, they introduced their cars. Now they did not have to exclusively spend on establishing the distribution network for cars only. So now they are again enjoying bit of economy of scale, because from using the same facility, now they're serving a wider segment of customers. Best example जी इनकी wholesale distribution fast moving consumer goods. I mean Nestle, Pepsi, Coke, Lay's being one product available everywhere. How is it possible? It's not that every day the PepsiCo is going everywhere and distributing Lay's. They have got a network which is taking care of the availability and replenishment of stock. Strong direct sale capabilities. Insurance industry. We had discussed it earlier as well. I mean, every day the insurance companies, at least in Pakistan, they unleash a workforce that has to go door to door or office to office, trying to convince the customers and frightening them with the worst possible fears so that they can sell their policies. Third one, ability to secure favorable display space on retailers' shelf. I think we can all relate to that. If you could remember your last visit to any retail outlet, being it a big out store or even a smaller corner shop, you tend to see these decorations being done by, let's say, Arial or Surf Excel. So what they tend to do is that they will get a dedicated 2 or 3 shelf area and they will decorate it, right? And they will make sure that their products are displayed up front and faced up in a very nice manner. It doesn't happen by default. They make sure that they get favorable display, and they even are willing to pay extra for this kind of display. So not all the organizations are going to have that financial muscle to establish a favorable display place everywhere. But there are few organizations who focus primarily on that thing. Alright, other key success factors. Coming to marketing, brand name. Could this be a factor?
Yes, sir.
It's an important factor. I mean, brand is something that helps you convince the customers that yes, that's what we stand for. Fast, accurate technical assistance. So just availability of technical assistance is not the only goal. It has to be accurate. It has to be fast. For instance, last year, I bought this air conditioner from Haier, the inverter one, and it was supposed to operate between 7 amperes and 3 amperes of electricity. But when I got it checked after installation, it was operating somewhere between 8 amperes and 13 amperes, much higher than the usual traditional air conditioner. So I contacted their customer service, and they were pretty accurate. I mean, they responded me well, and they made sure that the very next day their assistant came to my spot and they checked it out and figured out that the card that is actually responsible for controlling the electricity was not fine, so they got it replaced in a couple of days. So there are other firms which are not known for such accurate and fine response, right? So that itself becomes a key success factor in various industries. Then you have got the ability to accurately fill buyers' orders. Amazon is using robots. to ensure that the orders that are being catered, they are error-free to the possible extent. Then, customer guarantees are another key success factors, particularly when you talk about electronics. Guarantees play a very important role. I mean, people may compromise a bit on technical assistance efficiency if the guarantee span is greater. Let's say if a company is offering you 5 years guarantee but relatively poor service, you may go for that instead of going for a highly accurate service organization but only giving you 1 or 2 years warranty, right? With regards to skills and capacity, how talented your workforce is, right? Particularly you can take examples of universities, right? The faculty, the quality of faculty that they possess. Then you have got product innovation capabilities. Apple is the best example. They keep coming up with new products and they keep amazing us. Another good example of product innovation capability would be the 3M. That is a company that is responsible for introduction of a variety of products, including sticky notes. And if you go to their website, you'll be amazed with the kind of products and the variety that they have been able to offer, and most of them altogether new products. Then your strong e-commerce capabilities, how good you are at handling e-commerce. And last but not the least, convenient locations. That would again be important when we talk about which sector? Retail sector. So you may be having a very strong brand, great products, but if your company is not being able to secure good locations, it may not necessarily be in a position to compete well in the industry. So next step would be analysis of the competitors. There is a study that says small business owners believe that they operate in a highly competitive environment and the level of competition is increasing. But unfortunately, 97% of all US businesses do not systematically track the progress of their competitors. So what are the advantages that we could expect by analyzing or keeping an eye on our competitors? Firstly, it would help you avoid surprises. You'll be well prepared, better prepared to take care of the initiatives that are being done by your competitors if he is employing some new strategies or tactics. It would also help you understand and map out the possible new entrants in the industry and the threat that they pose. So if you know well in advance, you can at least try to move against them. And it would also improve your reaction time to the competitors' initiatives. And it would also help you anticipate rivals' strategic move. So how could we analyze our competition? What are the possible ways?
Products and services.
We can use their products and services, or we can probably send someone to keep analyzing what they're offering. Okay, that could be one way. What else?
Customer feedback.
Good. Customer feedback. Haji. Industry reports could be a good source. What kind of market share that they're enjoying. Competitor analysis, unfortunately, and at times it has involved some unethical activity as well, whereby the companies that employed some snitches, they would leak information from the competitors, but that is not something that is recommended. But there are some ethical ways as well in which you can keep track of your competitors, which could include monitoring industry and trade publications. Mostly the businesses, they are member of some association. For instance, Marble Manufacturers Association, right? Retail Association of Appara or supermarket, right? So these associations tend to come up with newsletters in which they try to encompass all the activities, or at least the most important activities that have been undertaken by various participants of that particular organization, right? So that can help you figure out that what your competitor is up to. Another good source of industry or trade publication is your local Chamber of Commerce and Industry. They tend to come up with these fortnight newsletters in which they would again highlight various businesses and what they are doing, alongside publishing with a list of various possible or potential importers and exporters. That again could be a good source of information on your competitor. As highlighted by one of our colleagues here, you could talk to the customers and suppliers. If they are common, they can be very good source of information. I mean, you could simply talk with the customers. How are you finding our products? How do you find the product of our customer, of our competitors? Which one you tend to prefer? What's the reason you tend to prefer our products or our competitor products? So again, with suppliers, what kind of supplies are being given to the competitors and what are we taking? So that could help you at least establish the difference between your strategy and your competitor strategy. You could regularly debrief employees, especially sales representatives and purchasing agents. Listen to them, what they have to say, because they are the ones who are interacting with those stakeholders in which with whom your competitors are also dealing with. One of my favorite, attend trade shows and conferences and study competitors' sales literature. And usually if you go to any exhibition, the businesses are more than excited to tell you that what they are up to. Right? They want you to know as much as possible about their product offerings, their geographical coverage, what kind of after-sale service they are happy to give you. Right? So that could be a very good source of information whereby the competitor is in a mood to tell you whatever you wish to. Car shows, sorry? They were telling you about the features. Yeah, thing is, for the corporates, particularly your cars वगैरह हैं, you can find so many reviews, third-party reviews as well. The challenge is to track the competitors if you're dealing in SMEs, small and medium enterprises. They would usually not give out that much of information. So these are the techniques that can even help you get information from SMEs as well. Conferences, again, another source where people tend to show off what they are up to and what different they are doing from the competition. And if your competitor is coming up with some sales literature, it could be in printed form, it could be online, that could be again a good source of information about competitors. Now this is a good one. Keep a track of the employment ads that are being given out by your competitors. Let's say if we were dealing in a very traditional industry, flour mill for instance, and if you see an ad where that competitor is looking for 3 IT guys, it could hint a possible establishment of e-commerce facility in that competitor's establishment. Right? So advertisement can be a good source to know in what direction your competitors are heading. You could, if you are in technology, you could go for patent search. You could learn about kind of equipments and raw materials your competitors are importing or what they are exporting. I can still remember when I was working for this Rice Exporting Association, a firm, we once got this fax, an anonymous fax that actually detailed a number, and the sender was suggesting that at a right fee, he was ready to share all the export details of rice that were done during the past year. So every shipment that you export, you have to give an invoice that details the products that are in that container. Alongside, you also have to mention the price as well as address and contact detail of your customer as well. So imagine grabbing all of that data. You could be knowing that which shipment has gone specifically to which customer and at what price. And this was unethical. He was trying to leak that information. And my boss, he discouraged this practice and he said that we do not need this kind of information. Right, G? Again, you can. Interesting ways of getting information. So if you could get hold of information about what kind of equipment your competitor is getting, you can get the details on that equipment from the supplier, and he can give you the details, the capacity, and what potential that particular equipment can hold. And this is an easy one. You could buy your competitors' products and benchmark them. You can reverse engineer them, open them up, try to analyze what kind of quality materials he is using or what kind of technology he is employing. Now, this is not yet popular in Pakistan, but we are getting there. Businesses are rated by the credit agencies, how they are feasible, how feasible it is for them to borrow and to return depending upon the past pattern of their financial structure. Then, if your competitors are publicly held companies, that means the ones that are listed in the stock exchange, they are bound by law to release financial information and associated notes that actually gives you an idea about their strategy. So that is something they are bound to do, and you can easily get hold of that information. You can use internet to learn more about your competitors, or you could visit competing business to observe their operation. I tried this once, but it didn't turn out to be a very pleasant activity.
So second, yeah.
Check out the reports. Publicly held competitors must file with Securities and Exchange Commission, that being your annual financial report.
And so the last one is?
Visit your competitors' facilities. I was once managing this shop, the one I've already mentioned, the Dean's Contemporary Design that dealt in the ladies' shoes. So once I was appointed as manager there in Bolton, I came to know that my major competitor, apart from Marks and Spencer's, they were like the high end of the market, and we were doing this imported from China kind of stuff. So the major competitor was one business, Armani Shoes, and that was being managed by the Gujarati Muslim family. So I went there to just observe their operation, and before I made it back to my office, my competitor had already called my boss, telling him that to make sure that I do not enter his shop again. So you do not have to do it yourself. You could send someone else to get a good idea of what kind of products that are being sold and what prices they are being sold at. Now this is an interesting concept. Unfortunately, Pakistan you may not still find organization focusing on this. Knowledge management would be the practice of gathering, organizing, and disseminating the collective wisdom and experience of a company's employees for the purpose of strengthening its competitive position. Here, the sales staff tend to deal with various clients every day, right? So over a period of time, they get some experiences, they get to know the do's and don'ts. So why is it that every time a sales staff member has to learn everything through that systematic process. Why not simply have a database where all the sales staff is merely sharing their experiences in which they can learn much more faster without committing mistakes. That's what this knowledge management is all about. I would just give you a few examples how the organizations are making use of it. For instance, few organizations have come up with this feedback database, which they ask their production managers and sales managers and staff to look for the kind of feedback that is being given for the company products. Then they've got this best practice database in which the best practices of all the departments of that organizations are shared in forms of case studies or how it improved the efficiency or the effectiveness of that particular unit. Then they tend to establish this community of experts, whereby if someone is facing any problem, they tend to share it online, and the associated staff throughout the world can simply give their feedback and tell them how to sort out that particular issue. That is something that you also get to see on, for instance, LinkedIn, right? Or ResearchGate is a good example. Anybody connected with ResearchGate here? So you can simply ask a question, and the experts from around the world can simply tell you is how to sort this thing. That's the thing that even the bigger, larger organizations are doing as well. And they are intra-organization. This knowledge is not made public because that is something that contributes to their structural capital. The next step is establishment of goals and objectives. Goals would be the broad, long-range attributes to be accomplished, whereas objectives would be more detailed, specific targets of performance that are SMART. For instance, the goal could be to increase profitability. It may be achieved by an objective, for instance, to reduce our rework by 5%. That would straight away ultimately contribute to our goal of having higher profitability. Let's take an example. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So the goal is that I want to grow my business. Now that is broad. How to do that, G? We come up with objectives. Specific, I will acquire 20 new clients for my consulting business. Measurable, I can measure my progress by how many new clients I bring on while maintaining my current clientele. Attainable, I will ask the current client for referrals, probably launch a social media campaign or network with the local businesses. These are the ways in which I consider these objectives to be attainable. Unless I do them, they won't be attainable. And they have to be relevant. Like adding additional clients to my business will allow me to grow my business and increase my revenue. And very important, time-based. You have to come up with some cut-off time, which would be the period in which you can easily measure how effective you have been in achieving your objectives. So strategy would be a roadmap of the actions an entrepreneur draws up to achieve company's mission, goals, and objectives. And it is company's game plan for gaining competitive advantage. I'm sure you must have gone through these earlier as well in your Introduction to Management course. No? Okay, there are basically three kinds of strategies that a firm can choose from. One option that is available with the firms is that they could be low cost producer in this industry. And they would have an advantage in reaching buyers on the basis of price. And they are the ones who are going to set the floor price of the industry. Suzuki. And it's not just Meiran. In whatever segment you go for Suzuki, you will find it cheaper as compared to competitors. You talk about sedans, they are cheaper than sedans by Toyota and Honda. You talk about 1300cc, you will find them cheaper than the 1300cc variants of Toyota and Honda, right? It works well when the buyers are sensitive to price changes and the companies are basically trying to sell same commodity products. I mean, even if you go for the high end of Q Mobile, it is a fraction of cost that you have to pay as compared to Samsung or iPhone. Even though supposedly you bring home a mobile carrying 16 GB of RAM, but effectively, unfortunately, it is almost 7 or 8. Ryanair would try to reduce its cost in every way possible. Can you believe an airline issuing a memo that the employees cannot charge their mobile phones at their workplace? That's what Ryanair did. That's how sensitive they are towards controlling their costs. Now they are experimenting, and I think this is now introduced, that they had to employ labor for the check-ins, for issuing of boarding pass. Now they are replacing that with automatic check-ins, whereby once you set out for airport and you're sure that you're going to get there, you can simply check online and straight away go to the plane. Again, trying to reduce the labor cost. They're operating their planes not from the main airports, but from the peripheral airports that are much cheaper to operate from. They are not operating their kitchens. They tend to buy from the nearest restaurants which are offering the quality products. And they would even capitalize on the prices of those sandwiches as well. Right? Next choice, when the company seeks to build customer loyalty by positioning its goods or services in a unique or different fashion. This is what the differentiation strategy is all about. Idea is to be special at something that customers value. Why were people going to Monol restaurant? Location. And not every restaurant had that kind of location. So that was the differentiating factor. You could find so many other restaurants offering even better food than Monal, but it was this combo of food with ambience that helped differentiate that restaurant from rest of the competition. So you build basis for differentiation on distinctive competence, something that a small company is uniquely good at doing in comparison to its competitor. In Scandinavian countries, they tend to establish this ice hotel every year where you could check in, stay there, and then check out. There are so many thousands of, or rather hundreds of thousands of hotels, but how many of them are made of ice? Differentiation, and people love to go there. And then the last strategy is the focus strategy, where rather than dealing with all the market, you tend to focus on a very small segment and you try to focus it by serving them in a good manner. Company selects one or more customer segments, identifies customers' special needs, wants and interests, and targets them with a product designed specifically for them. Chapter 2 of Khadi. एक बड़ा clear segment है. Did you get there? Visit किया? नहीं? That's a good example of focus strategy. And rather than selling their clothes for everyone, they have identified one particular segment and they have come up with a sub-brand that is clearly catering that particular segment. Rolls-Royce, one of the best examples of focus strategy. Ferrari. I mean, there are so many sports cars enthusiasts, but Ferrari tends to cater the high end of the sports car enthusiasts, right? There's a documentary on manufacturing of Rolls-Royce and it's worth watching. It reminds me that after the paint is done, this car is polished by a specific cloth made out of particular lamb wool, and it is polished by hand for like a couple of days by 2 or 3 guys. And compare it with the polish that is being done on Mehran by robots. Right, Ji, once you have decided that what strategy you wish to pursue, you translate those strategies into action plans. And one way of doing that is to coming up with projects. So whatever objective you wish to pursue, you come up with projects. And the projects are defined by purpose, scope, contribution, resource requirement, and timing. For instance, if ComSats wanted to build capacity of its faculty, it could do it with a project by introduction of capacity development project for the faculty. So the purpose is to improve the quality of the faculty. The scope would define that who would be benefiting from this project. Not all the faculty member maybe. So you'll be defining that what resources would be required and who is going to be benefiting from it. What contribution it would have once it is successful. What are the resource requirement, what facilities are required, which trainers would be required to come in and train the faculty, and again the timing, that how much time would be required to execute this project. And the step 9 is to establish accurate controls, whereby you plan to establish the standards against which the actual performance is measured. So these will be the benchmarks against which you can analyze if you are being on the track, or if you are lagging behind, or if you are being ahead of your targets. You need to identify key performance indicators in various areas. It could be marketing, finance, and if lagging behind or being off track, it would invite taking corrective action. And that would conclude our today's talk.